Hi, I'm Juanita from Nearby Artisans, and I'm going to show you some things you can do to edit photos with Silhouette Studio. I am using the business edition, but you can do most of these things with the standard edition as well, and the standard edition is free. You can also save these images to as a JPEG or as an SVG file, and then transfer them to your other machines or to other software packages. This is not something you would do with heat transfer vinyl or adhesive vinyl. This is something you would use with waterslide paper, to use on tumblers or mugs or other ceramics. You could use this for keychains, printable vinyl, sticker paper. You can use this for shrink paper, scrapbooking. This is great for sublimation printing, and with sublimation printing you can put it on shirts or textiles, and so it's just a fun thing that you can do with your photos. I am using these pictures of these dogs, and I'm going to do a simple basic thing here to get started. This picture is kind of plain and has a lot of brown in it, so I want to use this picture to kind of isolate just the little dog. I'm going to get myself a nice oval here that fits the size of her face and kind of make it a little bigger, and there, that's pretty good. I like that. I'm going to click on both of these and I'm going to group them. There's two ways to do this. I'm showing you first the easiest way. So now I'm going to align this center to page. I want to get a copy of just the picture. Now I'm going to place this over the face where I want the oval, and I like that right there. I want to make sure that it doesn't go past the top. And now I'm going to group that. I'm going to center to page. And I'm going to crop the face. Now, since I've centered to page when that was the whole picture, I can center this one to page. I'm going to first send it to the back. Center to page. And now this is actually the two pictures, but it looks like one because I use center to page to get it perfectly aligned. Now, a printer is going to print out just the flat image here that it sees. It's not going to care that there's two pictures here, but for anybody that has anything happen where maybe the back part does bleed into the first part or whatever, I'm going to show you a second way you can do this, but this is kind of nice right here. And I'm going to go up to the fill, and I'm going to use the transparency, and I'm going to make the background a little bit lighter. And now I've really isolated the dog, and I've kind of focused on that. Now, what this is really nice for is if you have a picture and you have multiple people in it, or you have multiple objects and you want to really isolate one or more objects. Say you're sending this picture to family, to friends, and you don't want to write on the back all the details and where somebody's standing, which one is who, and if you're only isolating a couple of people, you don't want a sticky paper put on it. This is just a good way to say, this is my child, or this is my niece, or whatever in a picture. It's just a nice way to do it. And now I'm going to group that. And I want to get another copy of the picture in the back. And now I want to group this and move it to the side. And I'm going to make it smaller. I like working with the pictures when they're larger because it's easier to shrink them down. It's easier to see the areas that you want when they're larger. Another thing about this is if I were showing this, say, to a customer, I was going to do some photos for them, maybe for a canvas or for some socks or something, I could go in and I would view this, taking away the grid, and that way they can more easily see what they're going to get. Now I'm just going to move that out of the way. I want to get my grid back because I do like working with a grid. Now, the other way that I can do this is I can get an oval again. Get my picture of my dog on there. I'm going to take away the transparency. I want to see if this is pretty much what I want. It is. I am going to highlight that. I'm going to group it. And I want to get a copy. I want to get a copy with the oval. Now, I'm going to go in there a little bit. Oops. And I'm going to center this and crop. Now, because I used the center to page, this here is where, this here is, if the whole picture was there, this is where, and centered, this is where this face would be. So what I'm going to do with this one is just the opposite. I am going to subtract. And now I can take this and I can say center to page, and it's going to pop right in exactly where it where the previous picture was, and it's just going to overlay. And now I have two independent pictures here, so now my printer will only see the outside and the inside as one. And what I want to do with that now is take the outside part. I'm going to go up to my fill, and I can make it transparent just like I did with the other one. So they're just the same. It's just two different methods. So now I'm going to delete that. I want to use this picture here, and I want to get myself a nice frame around it. Because I want to have this picture be have a nice frame around it, I am going to go ahead and use the method of the crop and subtract, because I don't want a lot of overlapping pictures. So what I'm going to do is pictures, when they come to you from somebody sends it to you through the internet or somebody's camera or other digital devices, they don't always come out as a 4x6 or a 3x5. Sometimes they come out with some very different dimensions, just like this one has. And so I don't want to have to write down or memorize these dimensions here to get myself the rectangle that I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this picture and I'll move my original out of the way. It doesn't matter which one is the original. I'll make sure there's no transparency here. And I'm going to offset this. So I'm going to click on it, click offset, and I want the offset to be 0.0. I want sharp corners, and so now I have my my offset. Now I have my offset of it, and now I want to get an internal offset of that, and I want the internal offset to be 0.250. I want the sharp corners. Apply, and I am going to make those a compound path. This is an intermediate to advanced video, so if you don't know how to do some of these things, you should go back and review some beginning videos. And I want to get a copy of the frame. You'll see why in a minute. Move that out of the way. And now I'm going to align both of those center to page. I want to make sure they're independently center to page. So I'm going to go ahead and align them to each other and then group that. And now I'm going to align it center to page. Now, you want to make sure that your picture is in back of these red lines, because this right here section, that's like the cookie cutter, and this is like the cookie. And so you're going to cut out from this area right here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop that. And so I have my frame. That's the outside section of that picture. Let me bring it to the front. So you can see that it's the exact same picture there. Now what I want to do is cut this picture down to fit inside of that. So I am going to take this here. I'm going to release the compound path. I'm going to get rid of the outside edge and delete it. And now I'm going to line these two up together. And now and you see I'm going to be cutting that part out. So I'm going to group those. I'm going to center the page. And now I'm going to crop because I want the internal part. And now you can see that when I line these up, I'm getting my exact same picture there. Now I want a second layer of this. So I'm going to go ahead and again, I'm going to offset. I'm going to offset to 0.0, get my sharp corners, apply. I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm going to move that out of the way, and now I'm going to get my offset for here. So I'm going to do an internal offset. I want the sharp corners. I'm going to say 0.250. I'm going to make that a compound path. I'm going to get this picture in there. I want to align both of those. I want to make sure the picture is in the back. I'm going to align them again, center and middle, and now I'm going to group that. I'm going to align center to page, and I'm going to again go up and crop. I'm going to get a copy of my picture. I'm going to get a copy of this whole thing. Move it to the side. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to crop. So now I have the outside and the inside. I'm going to move those over. And now I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to get rid of my outside rectangle. So I'm going to release the compound path, get rid of the outside one. I'm going to align both of these together. I'm going to group them, make sure they're center to page, and I'm going to crop. So now I have my main picture cut down. I have this outline and this outline. I'm going to align all of those center to page. Align that one center to page. Get my second one. On my third. So now I have a main picture and two nice borders, and I don't want to group these because I can't use the transparency if I've grouped them. So I'm going to wait until after I've used the transparency that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one, and I could also separate them at this point so I can see easier, and I may have to do that and then group and then center to page again. But so now I have that one that I'm going to have. I'm going to say 50, and you can use the slider, you can use the numbers, you can use the arrows. You should go back and view some beginning videos that will help you with all these things. So now I'm going to take this second one and I'm going to give it a transparency less than the other one. And so now I have these nice transparent borders. You can go in and take a look at that, but it still shows you the what's going on. Like, here's still the boat, here's still the greenery that you can see, but it just gives it a nice little touch of focusing in on the picture. You could have more, you could have several if you wanted to. Another thing nice about this is I'm going to go ahead and group this and save it. What you could do here is, say I had two pictures that I wanted to put together. I'm going to try to get this to be the same size as that. So I had two pictures that I was putting together in somewhat of a collage, and I wanted, I don't want sharp edges because I don't want there to be like the blue here and then the brown there and the contrast. I wanted something softer in between my pictures. I'm making a collage for a canvas or for a tumbler or something like that. So what I could do is, I'll go ahead and do that with this picture. What I could do is get myself a nice border. I'll go ahead and do that again with this dog, and I'll just make one border. I'm going to get my rectangle by doing an offset, get my sharp corners, 0.0, and I'll get my internal offset. I'm going to make those a compound path. Put my picture here. I'm going to line them both up. So the dog is in the back, and I have my cookie cutter on the outside. I'm going to align those center to page, and now I can go ahead and crop. Now what I'm going to show you here is why I cut out the borders and like the dog faces and stuff sometimes instead of just overlapping them. This here, if I send it to the back, the darkness of the picture in back is kind of going to overrule and make that as strong as the picture. So I really have to cut out this part here, this border, in order to have my transparent border here. So what I'm going to do is get a copy of both of these, move that out of the way. I am going to make that a compound path. I'm going to send this to back, make sure it's in the back. I'm going to line these two up. And I'm going to go over and subtract. And subtract. And now I have just the internal part of this picture. I'm going to make sure there's nothing left out here and delete it. So now I'm going to take my internal picture, center to page. So if you see that you're not getting your transparency, then you do have to go ahead and use the cutting. Then you have to go ahead and use the crop and subtract method. So now I can go to my fill, Here's my transparency. So now I'm going to center the page for the picture. I'm going to center the page to my border. And now I have my nice transparent border there. And I can make it as light or as prominent as I want. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to group these. And now if I take this picture here and I make it larger, the same size as close as I can to this, I might have to do a little cropping to get them the same size, but that's fine. Now if I put them together here, I get a pretty nice muted section in the middle where I don't have to have a sharp, distinct line in the middle. They kind of gradually, you know, go over, and I could do the transparency for one a little darker, the other one a little lighter. I could play around with these, and I could even take the lines and turn them into a nice soft gray here by not using the actual edge of the picture, but I just like doing that. And even if I put them together just slightly, I'll get like a nice transition between the two. And then I can take these and I could have more. I'm going to go ahead and show you from the getting rid of the grid how that would look. Let's see, I can, you know, move it over how much I want. And I would align these by doing align top, or, you know, however, to make sure that they have a perfect alignment. And then I would take the dimensions of this one and make this the same dimensions. And if I couldn't get them the exact dimensions, then I would go ahead and get my offset rectangle, put it over this, and crop to get rid of anything that where I can't get the size. I'd probably do it to this one because this has more just brown on the edges, where this has this beautiful sky and everything. I wouldn't want to get rid of any of that. So that's just another thing you can do to get them the same size. But now see, if you had like 4 pictures here, a collage of the 4 pictures, and you had this little grayed out section between them, it just makes it a little easier to look at than the sharp, crisp edges of it, and or a white or even a colored separation, or even a color line there. So anyway, this is just some fun things you can do. I'm going to show you a couple other things now. I'm going to take this picture of this dog. This dog's name is Greta. She's about the most gentle Rottweiler, or the most gentle dog I've ever seen in my life. She is extremely gentle. I want to put her name down here. Now there's 2 ways to do that. I can get a duplicate of the picture. I can go in and type her name. Greta. And I want that to be a little bit more separated, so I am going to go in and edit that from my text styles. And I want the character spacing a little bit more, I guess I want them together. Well, for this I want them apart. I don't care that it's not a nice flowy, you know, connected like that. So I'm going to go ahead but you could use the cursive and have it welded and all of that, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way. I'm going to turn this into a compound path. I'm going to get a duplicate of it. I duplicate everything, and then I can delete what I don't use. So I'm going to go ahead and get that. Now this is the first way that you can do it that's really easy. I'm going to line this up right here. I'm going to get this center to page. It's so important to make sure that you've centered a page. If you haven't centered a page, don't try to continue. Go back, click your step back, arrow and then get it center to page. So I'm going to take this now and I'm going to place it somewhere on the picture, right there, and I'm going to click on all of it and I'm going to crop. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to align that center to page, make sure it's in the back, and then you can see here I meant to group this. Okay, now again center to page, and now I can take this right here and I can make it more transparent. Now in this case, this would only really work if you make the transparency lighter, if you make the transparency darker and you make the picture lighter, and then you can get the name. And again, if you took the lines out here, but I don't like that way, so I'm going to show you a different way that I do this. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the name and I'm going to get rid of the transparency, and I'm going to get myself a duplicate of this, and I have the name here. So now what I want to do is I want to center to page the picture, okay, and I'm going to place this, and this is so important, I'm going to place this where I want the name to be, and move this, make this smaller, move this out of the way. So I think I would want the name right there. I am going to group that, and now I'm going to center to page, and I'm going to get a copy of a duplicate of that with the name right there where I want it. I'm going to highlight all of this. I'm going to crop, and now I have just the name, and I'm going to go ahead and group this because I don't want to lose any pieces here. Now this one looks pretty good. I don't think there's any pieces, but it's just a good habit to get into. So I'm going to group that, but I don't want to move that. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to subtract and now I need to make sure that I take and group all of that because I do have little pieces in here. I have the little piece of the A here, and I have the piece of the E, so I need to group that. I am going to crop that. Now I'm going to align center to page for this one, and now I'm going to just put this one here, up here. I'm actually going to take this and use a second page only because I have learned that sometimes it doesn't come out exactly right, and this way it always comes out exactly right. So this is an extra step. You can try just to do it from this right here to do the subtract. I'm going to take and cut this and go to my second working page, and I'm going to center the page. I don't know if it gets caught up with the other letters there or what, and it's not consistent, but this way just really works well. So now I am going to subtract So I'm going to subtract. And now I'm going to group all of this. I'm going to cut. I'm going to go to my main page. I'm going to paste, and it just fits in perfectly. It doesn't always fit in perfectly when I do it on the same page, and I'm not sure why. But it does work 50% of the time. So for time's sake, I just do it this way. Now what I want to do is I'm going to move this out of the way enough to group this and then put this back center to page. That way, as I'm working with the name down here, I don't accidentally move anything. So now what I want to do is I want to highlight that. I'm going to make this, I'm going to magnify it so that I can get this section right here without moving it. But it looks like I did move it slightly. Okay, so there. And now I can go up to my panel and I can get myself some transparency here. I'll go back out and you can see how that just, you know, it's just nice there. You know, that's just, it keeps slightly moving. And maybe not so transparent. Maybe I just want a little bit of almost a water effect look. This is a good way also to give yourself some, when you're putting pictures on the internet or you're you know, printing them out to sell, but you want to keep your watermark. This is a good way to do that. So now I have the name of the dog. Now I could put, you know, if you had more than one Rottweiler, Rottweilers tend to look very similar, although a person will tell you, just like with identical twins, they don't think they look anything alike at all. But most of them do look very similar. And if you had more than one, this is a good way to put a little name. You could put a name here and then over here, but it's still subtle enough to see the entire picture. With children's names, and because I don't like when something blocks out a part of the picture. I like to be able to see the whole picture, and you know, this is just a really good way to do that. I'm going to go ahead and group this, and I'm going to take this picture right here and see if I can't get the, see if when I do the name part, if it does that, so I can show you how it sometimes doesn't line up. So I'm going to take this girl, she's Callie. I'm going to get the name Callie down here. I'm just going to go ahead and keep the same font. I'm going to get myself a, okay, see now I have to make sure to turn this into a compound path. And now I would put this, say right here. I'm going to group this. And now for this one, I will get a duplicate. I'm going to go to this panel and I'm going to crop. I'm going to center the page. And I'm going to crop. And so I have this name. So now I have this part, if I do it on this same page, and I'm going to subtract. And now you would think if I put, and of course it'll probably work now, align, center to page, and it did, but it doesn't always. So if it doesn't always work, you can do that second page, and it'll work that way. I don't know what I do that's different at all, because like I said, it's almost 50% of the time. So now I can take this, I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to group this so that I don't lose the A or the any parts of it. So I'm going to go ahead and group that. And now I'm going to align and center to page. And this time it worked perfectly. It doesn't always. I'm not sure what I sometimes do different. Maybe you could let me know in the comments if you do it a couple of times and you see, oh, if you do it this way, that it doesn't line up right. So I'm going to go ahead and group this, and so that I don't lose the I, or here I don't lose the A. And again, I'm going to align, center to page, and I'm going to make this all smaller. And I cannot group this because if I do, I'm going to lose my ability to make this be transparent. Now I'll go to the transparency, and there we go again. Just gives it this little, you know, you could put it up here, you could put it at an angle. It's just a fun thing to be able to do with photos. I'm going to group that now. And you know, these things with the photos, the photo editing is fun. I have some other videos on doing photo editing. I hope you try it with the photos, because a lot of people that are doing the water slides on tumblers, they're not using the heat transfer vinyl, so you can get more creative because you are using images. Of course, some people still do use the heat transfer vinyl, and that's great, or the adhesive vinyl, but this just gives you some ability with photos, things you can do. You could, you know, put a crown on her, you know, from a different picture, or even just a crown, the image be. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, click on the little bell for notifications. I'm going to be doing many more videos this year. I also got a Silhouette Pro, so I'm going to be doing some videos on that. I have some really great ideas of things I can do, especially involving wood and large sheets of vinyl, large sheets of marine vinyl. So thank you for watching, and please check out the Nearby Artisans website. I'm trying to put together a directory for crafters. The directory so that people that are closer to you that don't want to pay shipping, and they don't want to deal with shipping from somebody, you know, away. They want to see their item, they want to touch it, they want to feel it. It could just give you more business where you are. And you know, it's I think it's a really good idea, especially for us crafters. So thank you again for watching.